Join us in the Bear Den, a real-life, real-love podcast celebrating the joys and challenges of parenting, family dynamics, and unconditional love.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Bear Den podcast. Today, my lovely guest is a master esthetician. She's also a CrossFitter and a full-time mom. It is Miss Natalie Daniels. Thank you for coming in.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for you to be here.
Thank you.
I think you have a great story, which I'm excited for you to share with me and with everybody. So let's dive right in. We only have an hour, so let's get into this.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about Natalie. Who is Natalie? Where is she from? And let's start there.
Good question. Good question. I love it.
I don't want to answer this question.
I know. I was like, what? Okay. So I feel like I've done a lot in my life, but yeah, I think the biggest thing was just like the history of where I came from.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So where's that?
So I grew up in Russia.
Okay.
And I remember walking to the orphanage. That's the craziest thing. I remember walking to the orphanage.
Orphanage?
Mm-hmm. With, I don't know if it was my mom or an older sibling, because when you're so little, everything looks big to you, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, and they had a suitcase. And I remember asking constantly going there. I was like, where are we going? Where are we going? And never really remember like an answer or anything from that. And then all I remember is just getting to the door. They pass me in, and then she hands over the suitcase, and then that was it. That was it. Like, that was the extent. And so I have no idea, like, if it was my mom or a sibling or whoever, because I do still have, like, in the records, it states that I do still have about 3 other siblings that are out there.
Wow.
And then one other that was also adopted into the U.S. through a whole different family. So, and these are just the things that I know for sure that happened because of the records that was put in there and stuff like that. However, that's the one thing that's hard with Russia. Sometimes you have to take things with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Because it's like, you can't believe everything they tell you, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's freaking Russia.
Yeah.
Like, we're badasses in itself. Sorry.
Yeah. So how old were you?
So maybe like 4 or 5, like enough to remember what was going on.
Wow.
So
So
super crazy.
And is that kind of the only memory you have of like growing up in Russia was?
Oh no, there's so many memories. There's so many memories. So
whereabouts? Let's start there. Whereabouts in Russia? Because obviously Russia, giant country.
Huge.
Like literally touches Europe and then goes all the way to the other side of the world and touches America. So whereabouts in Russia?
So I was about west of Moscow.
Okay.
And the town was called Pskov. Well, the city, whatever you want to call it, was called Pskov.
Okay.
Veliki Luki was the name of my place.
Say that again?
Veliki Luki. I know, it almost sounds Hawaiian.
It really, Pskov Veliki Luki.
Pskov Veliki Luki.
That's pretty cool name.
My actual Russian name is Natalia Alexandra Tsvedkova. That's my actual Russian name.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah.
Natalia
Alexandra Tsvedkova.
Svetkova?
Yeah. So in Russia...
that's a gymnast right there. Surely that's an Olympic gymnast. No?
I always dreamed of being a gymnast and doing splits. That was my thing.
Really?
Yes. I know, such a dork. Even to this day, I'm like, one day I'm going to get those splits. And every now and then I still dream about it because that was like the coolest thing I've ever seen anybody do.
Yeah.
It's just splits, all the different ways. So anyways, moving on.
Yeah. So 4 years old, you obviously remember your childhood.
Here's what happens.
Do you remember your parents at all? Because
No. So that's the thing is the background I know.
Okay.
And don't count me on it, but both of my parents were alcoholics.
Okay.
Huge into alcohol. Never met my dad, like ever. And then my mom, she did a little bit of drugs on the side. I don't know like how extreme or anything like that. And then what's crazy is, come to find out, we have a death certificate on her when we came here.
Okay.
And she died in May, the same year that we were adopted, and we came in October that same year. So we had no idea this whole time that she was even there.
Yeah.
Like, we thought that she might still be alive somewhere, doing whatever. But she was in a really bad space.
Do you think so? So you were adopted in the May.
No, I was adopted in October.
Okay.
She passed away in May.
The following May or the May beforehand?
The same year.
Okay. And were you in the orphanage at that point?
I was still in the orphanage.
Okay. So do you think there's a chance that she knew that there was something wrong with her, an illness, and she knew she was dying?
It wasn't. So here's
it just seems very coincidental that they put you into an orphanage and then she passes away kind of while you're there. I don't know whether, and those are answers you'll probably never get, right?
No, absolutely. And like with my mom, unfortunately, she wasn't in a good place. She was a prostitute.
Oh, wow.
And so there was reasons why she put us in the orphanage, because she wanted that better life for us,
Gotcha.
even though that was like a huge sacrifice for her, right?
Yeah.
In itself. She didn't want to be alone. However, she didn't have like a really good education. And so that was the one thing that she just turned to, because in Russia, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so going with that, because of it, she was probably super depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why she, drank so much alcohol, got into drugs, whatever. And in her death certificate, it states that she did have an aneurysm, and that's what killed her.
Gotcha.
So to this point, like, I don't know what's really true,
Mm-hmm.
like how she actually died. Because going with that, I actually talked to my sister. So my sister and I were adopted together.
Okay. So you have a sibling that you were adopted. Is she here with you in the US?
She lives in Arizona.
Oh,
Snowflake.
Cool. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Kind of a weird town, but
yeah. Oh, yeah. Very much so.
Super weird. But at just like beginning of the year, her and I were talking about it. And she's like, I know it's going to sound really weird and stuff, but she's like, I have one of my friends here. She is a medium. And she's like, and what's really weird is she could actually feel the presence of our mom. And for a while, like I was weirded out by the whole thing, because we don't believe in that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like we've never experienced it or whatever. But as she's gotten to know her friend more and more, she's like, she's not kidding, because it happened once before.
Okay.
And the friend didn't want to tell her because she didn't want to freak her out, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
So,
oh, by the way, Karen, your dead mum's keeps tapping me on the shoulder. She wants to tell me you're fine, but whatever. Like,
right? It's kind of like one of those, like, okay, I saw God. Yeah, okay. So weird. Anyways, but and my sister swears to this day, and I don't know how much of it I truly want to believe, but she's like, our mom didn't die of an aneurysm. I was like, she didn't. She's like, no, I actually got an answer from her that day that I was at my friend's house and spoke to our mom. Wow. She's like, she didn't die of an aneurysm. And I was like, well, what did she die of? She's like, she got strangled. And I'm just like,
what?
I was like, I don't know where to go with this, because my whole life, it was always the aneurysm, because that's what was stated in the documents, right? But again, with Russia, like, there's a lot of things they will cover up and change it, or like manipulate the words a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
to make it sound like it's not as what it really was.
As bad there. Yeah.
So my sister, she's like, I 100% believe her. Because I was like, there's no way she just died in a hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so that one I'm still kind of sitting with. Like, wow. I don't know what to really think of that.
That's crazy.
It's not crazy though.
So you have a sister here with you. So
yes.
So you were 4. How old was your sister?
So
when you went into the orphanage?
So she's almost 2 years younger than me.
Okay. So she was teeny
tiny. Much younger, but I don't know if she went the same time I did. That's the other thing I don't know. So here's what's wild. When you get put in the orphanage, they don't tell you that you have siblings in there in case you get split up, right? Or one gets adopted, but the other doesn't. Like, they don't ever state that in adoption papers and stuff like that. If someone's like looking at this child, they don't come back and they're like, oh, by the way, they have other siblings. Like, they leave all that detail out.
Wow.
So what's crazy is...
So you're in essence, you're in this orphanage with your sibling.
And I had no idea.
That you had no idea.
No, and that's what's crazy is I used to see her, like, they have 2 big parks there for different ages. And I used to see her in the park every time, and she was walking with this little girl who was maybe like a few years younger, and she was like mothering her, like taking care of this little person and stuff like that. So I used to see her in the orphanage all the time, but never once did it cross my mind that she was my sister, because she was darker skinned.
Gotcha.
We think we might have 2 different dads.
Mm-hmm.
And even though like facial features, there's a lot of similarities, she's just a hair different in some ways too. So that's why to me, like I never even thought like, oh, maybe I have a sibling in here, because once you're in the orphanage, like you're fending for yourself. There's no one else. And so, yeah, when we got brought in the room together and they're like, so you guys are going home with this family. And we got to meet the family once before, because they do come a few times just to like give you little gifts or things with little scents on there, just like a way of remembering them. And what's funny is with my mom, like she did so much research and reading and everything upon even doing an adoption, because she wanted to do it the right way. Her and my dad both did. And so, yeah, for a while they used to bring us little gifts. They even gave us like a little photo booklet of like everything that we're going to be coming home to. And at first we were like super confused by it, because we're like, what is this? You know? And then the more we started looking into it, we got to see like who the brothers are going to be in our family, our actual parents.
Like the animals, the house.
Yeah, like all that, our grandparents, all the aunts, like all these things. And so we kept that for a little while. And then finally, when they came on the last day to come get us, they had us change into like new pairs of clothes. And from there, I remember my mom getting so sick because it was so much traveling from Russia to get back here to the US.
Yeah.
And she said we stayed in Moscow for a few days with the people that we stayed with. They were translators, and they also were there to give the help for those families that were adopting. So it was kind of like their
almost like a transition.
Yeah. So anyway, so I remember staying with them for a few days, and then after that we got on the train, and then from there we flew out, and I think we were on 3 different planes. We've never been on a plane.
I was going to say, this is all new to you.
Could you imagine?
You've probably never been outside of your city.
No.
You've never been outside the country. You've probably never been on a train or a plane.
I thought I was going to literally a desert with the castle on it. That's what I was envisioning. And I was like, this is going to be so amazing. You know, like I had no idea what to expect.
And honestly, I didn't even pick up on the fact too, which is so stupid of me, that this is in Russia and your parents are coming from the US.
Yeah.
So the pictures they're leaving you are like homes that you're not even used to seeing.
Yes.
Like, you know, homes 2-3 stories with 3-car garages. Like,
or
you're
the
not
fact
used
that
to
we're going to have siblings, animals, like all these
ranch
things.
with land and animals.
I mean,
and like, what? But you know what I mean? Like, it's just so foreign to you.
So foreign.
That's like, that's almost like, you know, I don't know, we're talking on an extreme here, but like, that's like going to, you know, the middle of Africa and finding a little kid in the middle of a village somewhere
who doesn't know anything different.
And then giving them a brochure of New York and be like, hey, this is where you're going to live next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
The level of anxiety and overwhelming and excitement, like the emotions just must have been all over the place. I mean, it was definitely
scary, but when I saw my sister in the room with me and realizing like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do this alone. Because it's like we knew what adoption was, but we weren't quite certain. And there were so many times like I used to hear about it in the orphanage, or like one of your little peers or someone was going to be going to a new home and stuff like that. And I just kept thinking in my mind, I was like, sure would be nice if I could get that opportunity one day. Like it would be pretty incredible.
And I was going to ask that question. How does that affect you mentally? So how old were you when you got adopted?
So I was 9.
Okay, so you were in the system for 5 years. You were in the orphanage for 5 years.
Yeah,
How does that affect you as, you know, I'm kind of thinking now on our kids, like, you know, the love, the hugs, the attention, the sad days, the good days, the happiness, like all the emotions that kids go through. And as parents, we get to be on that journey with them and be that support system for them. And obviously when you're in an orphanage, that's very limited because you've got staff and a lot of children.
Yes.
What's the emotion when that friend you've made, who's been that friend of yours for 2 to 3 years in the orphanage, gets to go home and you don't? Like, how did you deal with that? Like, could you truly in your heart of hearts make real friends knowing that you'll never see them again? Or
that's what's funny is because I was thinking back on that. I was like, did I really have friends, or was it just all these kids put together that we just got along because we were little? And as a kid, like you don't think about like what kind of friends you're going to make. Because to you, everybody's a friend because we're all in the same place, doing the same stuff. Like we're going through the same emotions. And so I think for me is I don't know, I kind of got along with everybody and anybody because it was like, I didn't really think about the like the adoption life or anything like that. But every now and then, like you hear someone getting adopted. And in my mind, it was more of, well, what exactly does that mean? Because they don't teach you that kind of stuff there. You know, they just said that, you know, maybe one day you'll be able to get back to a great home or you'll just be here. And it was just one of those things that I think every day you hope for it, but you don't really dwell on it too much.
Yeah. You don't set the expectations too high.
Exactly. Yeah. Because so this was the other thing I was going to tell you. So before my sister and I actually got adopted, we were in 2 different orphanages by then. So when you turn 8 years old, they transfer you to another orphanage, and that's where you start doing school.
Gotcha.
And education. So I was able to at least get like a year of education before I came here. But what's crazy is when my parents originally were coming to get my sister, they didn't know about me. They had no idea about me until they were pretty real about getting my sister. And then that's when one of the staff members came over and they said, by the way, she has a sister in the nearby orphanage.
Wow.
So it's like they weren't expecting to come home with 2.
No. And what a testament to your parents too, to look at the big picture and have that capacity of love and space to like bring home 2 children instead of 1.
Well, and I think that was more my dad's doing.
Okay.
So my dad loved kids. Like he's been passed away for over 17 years now, but he loved kids. And what's crazy is we had some neighbors down the street from us, never had kids of their own, and they ended up adopting 6 kids from the same orphanage that we did.
Wow.
Right? So ever since they heard about our parents' story, they're like, oh my gosh, we can totally do this, and we don't even have kids, you know?
Yeah.
So they brought 3 kids the first year, and then they went back and got the other 3 kids. And the oldest was 17 years old, Matt. So he was like already on his way.
I was going to say he's an adult.
Right?
He's ready to start.
He pretty much just got a free visa. Be like, the hell, I'm out of here, right?
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
See ya.
I can drive. I can do this. I can do this.
So he was literally out within 2 years.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate reality is the parents, they didn't know how to discipline the kids because we come out of Russia and we don't know anything. We don't know like the culture, the behavior, like what's acceptable, what's not, like how you should behave when you're in public or at home, or if you have visitors, like all these things, like no discipline, right? We were pretty much like wild in the house. My sister at one point was throwing pool ball tables at our brothers because we thought that was such a funny thing because they were so scared of it. And they're like, well, what the heck's wrong with this, you know? So we had a heyday with all this stuff at home. It was great.
Well, and to that point too, you've also got to learn the language.
Oh yeah, we didn't speak any.
You didn't speak English, so
no.
New language, new country, new family, new activities.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's a lot to process as a 9-year-old.
Well, and the first year was really hard because you're going through all the immigration work, plus you're getting your citizenship. Plus, we literally started school 2 weeks after we got here. Plus, we were sealed to our family. And then on top of that, we had missionaries started coming to our house like shortly after we got here because my family was very active in the LDS community.
Gotcha.
So they actually found some Russian missionaries who could come over and help with the translation to teach us about the gospel, because before, when you're in the orphanage, you are automatically a Catholic. They already take you to the church. They do all the stuff, like you get the cross necklace, everything. So learning about the new religion and stuff like that was really hard too, because I felt like it was almost, I wouldn't say forced, but it's like we didn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, and because we were still such young kids and our family was already here with the religion, like I get the reasons why. But even after all the years as I've gotten older, I still was like, is this truly for me? You know? Yeah. So little things like that. But like seeing the mountains for the first time, I was just like, what is this?
Wow.
It
And
was
so
insane.
were your parents from Utah?
Yes.
Okay, so they were from Utah.
Yeah, born
okay.
and raised.
Okay.
Not Utah, but like around the States,
Yeah,
right? Sorry. Anyways, so that first year was nuts. And then my mom, like, I remember her telling me some of the stories because I was like, tell me like some things about the past that I just don't remember as a kid when I first came here. And so one of the things in the orphanage is they would let you do nighttime playground.
Okay.
And so we didn't really have like a bedtime routine and stuff like that. So at night times, and it was like freezing cold out there. I remember there was literally ice everywhere around us, right? Like we had to be careful how we walked out there.
It is Russia, people.
It is Russia.
It's not Aruba. It's
No.
Russia.
You train without a shirt. It's Russia.
We've all seen Rocky IV. We know what he looks like. All right?
Thank you. Appreciate it. No, but they train you like badass. So no, but we used to be able to go out and just like play for 10 minutes, right? And we used to think that was the best thing in the world. Like we were so happy as little kids because it's just some of these joys that they still did in orphanage. Like it wasn't all bad the way people always portray it. There was good that came out of it too, but just like the little great memories I had, and maybe that's what kept me surviving there was those kind of things.
What were some of the things that were great in the orphanage? Because you're right, when we think about children being in an orphanage, you know, we go back to the stories that we know of orphanages, which aren't pretty, you know, the Oliver Twists and the Annies and all those kind of stories. Like they're not pretty, you know, they're cold, they're dank, they're miserable, the kids are mistreated, they're underfed, you know, all these things. That's a perception that we have because those are the stories we've heard.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not really like that.
No.
What were some of the positives that you could take away from being in that time in the orphanage, if any?
So I don't know. I think for me, like I was still able to be a kid, even though I didn't have like the loving parents and stuff like that. But like being around those kids and just understanding like their emotions and what they're going through. I think that was pretty cool to be a part of. And just like the invention of our own games and stuff like that we used to do, because it's like, what else do you really do in the orphanage? You know?
Yeah.
And one of the games that I was so fond of is we used to have this race war. The first one to get to the cafeteria and put as much bubble gum in your mouth from under the tables wins.
The stuff that's stuck under the table?
No
because
way. It still had so much flavor.
Oh.
Like, no,
Natalie.
No, Matt, listen.
And you complained before the show about having dirty hands and you ate other people's bubble gum?
Well, now I'm such a germaphobe. But before, like, I didn't realize half the shit I did. I was like, what the hell? Like, so messed up, right? But no, I remember going towards like the very back at the cafeteria and I started at those tables. And to be honest, like, I still don't know where these kids got all this bubble gum and stuff, but I was like, this is freaking amazing. So I would get to the very far end and I would just drop to the floor and just start picking out all this bubble gum. And I remember pink was my favorite.
Oh, I cannot even with you right now.
Because it was the bubble gum one. It was the big one, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, if I can get this.
These are stalactites now stuck to the underside of the desk. Pre-chew, and you are cracking those things off,
and we are just going at it. Whoever had like the little chipmunk looking mouth. It was great. But it's like I hardly ever get sick because of stuff like that. Or there was other times in the summer we would go to a little summer camp and there's this huge, they're almost like little log cabins, but they're all connected as one. And so I used to remember going in the summer. We were there for like 2 weeks or so, it seemed like. And I was always eating little worms out of the ground. Like, no joke, Matt, you would be amazed the shit that we did. And now I can't even look at a worm. It freaks me out. I was going to say,
you are such a germaphobe. It's unreal. Like when we were on the cruise, you're like, oh, I need to sanitize my hands. Like I need to wash.
No, it was bad. Like anytime I was like, I know. It's so weird.
So now it all makes sense. You used to eat other people's chewing gum. What's your favorite?
I would never
what's your favorite flavor chewing? Yeah, whatever. Old habits die hard. If you look under this table right now and there's a piece of Hubba Bubba.
That's so good. No, that would be my 5-year-old.
So what was your go-to gum? If you were under that table and you saw that gum, you were like, bingo, baby, jackpot. What was it?
It was the pink one, the big bubble gum one.
The big pink, juicy,
freaking
bubblicious,
amazing.
whatever.
Hells yeah. I know. And then, of course, I come here, sugar everywhere. It's America.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm like, this is amazing. And I remember, how cheap the candy used to be, like less than 65 cents, things like that. So anytime I was able to make even a little money on the side, as a kid, that would be the first thing I went to was the gas station and just stocked up on all this candy. Because that's the other thing in Russia. You get no treats of any sort.
Really?
Like, never had any kind of sugar.
Wow.
The only time I remember having like a really special treat, it was in their summertime. And we were all sitting at the playground. They have, it's not even bleachers. It's like these little benches that are built up inside this little, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's like a covered little awning kind of place,
like a little bus
right?
shelter type thing.
Yeah. So at the park, I remember we all were sitting there and they said, okay, guys, we have a special treat for you. And they came out with this big box. And it was those little paper cup ice creams with the wooden spoon.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was the coolest thing ever because we've never had ice cream before, ever. So just even having a treat like that
was okay?
insane.
So was this an orphanage thing or is this a Russia thing? Because I've never been to Russia.
No. This was just in our orphanage. These are just things I experienced. I'm sure Russia loves.
I was going to say.
Let's be honest, it's more vodka.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a lot of
vodka. At the end of the day, that's all they want.
There's no Mountain Dew. It's just all vodka.
Yes.
Just cut straight
Pretty
to
or
the
not,
chest.
like, let's get to it.
Yeah, seriously.
So, but food was like the biggest thing that played for me when I got here. Because my mom here, she loved cooking. So she was always making like these gourmet meals.
Good old Utah mom, just baking and cooking.
Baking, yes. And she always had brownies on a plate for us, like stuff like that. And I remember eating a raw chicken. My mom was making stuff with the raw chicken and it happened to be in the bowl. And I remember just sitting on the countertop and I decided to just take a bite of one. I immediately spit it out, like, because to my mind, I was like, this is freaking disgusting. And then that's when she was trying to explain to me. She's like, sweetie, I haven't even cooked this yet. I was like, what the hell is this?
It's very chewy, Mom.
It's like I've seen chickens my whole life, but I didn't realize that was chicken in itself. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
But
because why would you? Because when you're in the orphanage, you literally the food's on the plate. You just sit down and eat.
I was going to say they don't show you what's behind the kitchen.
You don't get to see the kitchens.
No.
Absolutely. You don't need to know that you're eating cat. I've actually done that.
We did eat a lot of horse.
I've actually eaten cat.
Did you really?
Yeah, in Iraq, it was miserable.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was eating curry for 6. So when I was in Iraq in the Middle East, we on the base we would have chicken curry or lasagna every night, and it was just chicken korma curry, and it was good. It was yummy. So I just eat the same curry every night, just rinse and repeat. And we had an officer that came out to do an exercise with us, and we sat down. He's like, "Hey, chap." He's like, "Hello, chaps. What's good for dinner?" I was like, "Sir, go with the chicken curry. You'll absolutely love it." It's like, okay. So he gets a big bowl of it. He sticks his fork into the curry and he kind of pulls out this big piece of meat.
No.
And he literally looks across the table. He's like, well, I've never seen a chicken with a double knuckle. And we were all like,
What?
And as soon as he said it, we were like, uh-oh.
Oh, no.
We kept on eating. Food's food.
Well, I was going to say, you were probably starving no matter what.
I've been on this diet for 4 months now. I'm not going to stop. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Mentally wise after that, you're like,
so that was it. If ever we saw a cat round the base, we're like, see you tonight.
Oh, my. You're like, going to taste
because they're
like
everywhere.
chicken.
They're everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, they're feral cats and
yes.
there's kittens and it's Iraq. They're everywhere.
Yes, constantly
so you
breeding.
See cats on the street. You're like, whoo, see you for dinner.
That was one thing in Russia. Huge on cats. They had cats everywhere.
Yeah.
So, and even in our orphanage, I remember we always had like little kittens that would roam throughout the orphanage. And sometimes they would actually sneak inside. I don't know how, but it's if the door didn't get closed or whatever. But every night I always was sleeping with a cat. And it was always kittens and stuff.
Do you have a cat now?
No, because I'm allergic. This is what I'm saying, man. Like, someone... Why?
What has happened to you? What has happened to you?
I don't know.
You've gone from eating bubblegum to being a germaphobe, and you've gone from loving cats to being allergic. Like,
I still love cats, but I'm allergic to them. And I didn't know that until I was dating Jeff. And then his family has a cat, and it looks just like Garfield.
Oh, really?
Literally looked like Garfield.
The orange and black tabby?
Yes. And so the first couple of times when I went over there, I used to just like snuggle this cat. And after that is when I realized my eyes started getting itchy. They're swelling. Oh. And then one thing led to the next. Anyways, that's when Jeff's like, babe, I think you're allergic to cats. And I didn't realize that was what it was causing. Because I was like, I don't know what it is, but like my eyes are starting to itch really bad. And then by nighttime, they were so swollen. He was getting really bad. He still loved me through it all, though.
Bless you.
But I used to love cats. Like I think in a sense, like they were my friends at times of need, sadly. And so I loved animals. So even as I grew up and then came here and stuff, I always loved being around animals, and especially horses. Like horses were my thing.
Oh, really?
Loved horses. Yeah. So my dad growing up, he was a cowboy.
Oh, awesome.
And so he always had like some sort of animals on property. Yeah. Right. And back then, like when I first came here, they were living in South Jordan.
Okay.
And behind our property was just filled. Right. So my dad would keep horses out there, and tons of our neighbors had horse property next to them. We were just, and so he always had horses. And then a few times throughout the year, he would actually help watch other people's horses. So we had like a Clydesdale for like a couple of months, and they're such pretty horses.
They are huge,
but they're so pretty.
Absolute
right?
Beasts of a horse.
So my dad one year thought about bringing one up to Oakley. So the property where my mom lives now used to be my dad's property. So my grandpa's.
Okay.
And then after grandpa passed away, grandma moved down, and then she was going to sell that property. And my dad's like, don't you dare, like I want to build on it. And so a few years later, he moved up there, started building on it. So during that time is when we had a Clydesdale. So he would bring the Clydesdale up there. And because we had like 36 acres of property up there, he would just get a sled behind it and then just pop us all on there and just start going around
behind the Clydesdale.
It was so fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But like great stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like horses to me, I don't know. It's like they were such a different bond and connection, and just having something.
Horses are very energetic, intuitive, I can't even speak, very intuitive animals.
Yes.
Like they can pick up on your energy.
They're very intelligent.
Oh, very intelligent. That's why they honestly say, I've ridden a couple of horses, and every time we go to the ranch and ride horses with friends or whatnot, the ranch handler always says, they can feel if you're scared of the horse, they can feel it.
They can feel it, yeah.
And if they feel you tense on their back, then they're tense, because the whole energy becomes, they pick up on your energy. If you're relaxed, they're relaxed.
Yeah.
And it's very evident to see when you see like really good horse riders, they are just at one with the horse. Like they just flow, right? And it's because they're in tune with each other. They're dialed in.
Yeah, it's
But then
incredible.
you see other people like rigid, just bouncing all over the place. I'm like, which has been me in the past. I had an ex-girlfriend once that put me on a racehorse.
Oh,
and that thing
no.
went. I was knees to chin for like half a mile.
How did you not like I'm out. I'm just going to jump off.
It was almost a tuck and roll.
Oh my
It was a lot.
especially a racehorse.
Oh yeah, and I'm pulling the damn thing. I'm like, slow down, Winnie. And that thing's just like, it's got its ears back. He's like, all right, big boy, let's keep going. It was not good.
That was the last day of that girlfriend.
It's the last time I got on a horse. Like, shit. Looked at it. I was like, man. Then this poor horse was just going. It was, it was so much fun.
Gosh.
But I've ridden trail horses down in the desert with family, and there's a ranch we go out to that they do horse rides and stuff. So we've taken the kids plenty of times.
Yeah.
And they love it. They're fearless with the horse. They just get on and ride.
And
these horses know the trail. You don't even have to steer them, to be honest with you. You can just sit there on your phone and they'll just follow the path.
Nice.
Oh, they're so docile.
Like, and enjoy the nature.
It's beautiful. And they're just walking along, and the next thing you know, he just stops and he's eating a bush and he's eating another horse's poop. Come on, Winnie, let's go.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. But they are very, very calming energy. They really dial in with who the person is. So it's kind of awesome. You kind of have that connection with them,
Yeah.
So you've got these amazing American parents that pick, they choose your sister and choose you at the age of 8 and 9 or 9, you said, and bring you over here.
Yeah.
Tell me about them. Tell me about them. Like, what was it? They sound like they're just amazing people. I can tell from the way you're talking about them and the smile on your face when you're talking about your dad and your mom. So what were some of the things that they did that just made life great for you?
Well, I think the biggest one was just having those parents and just seeing every day just through their example, and like, my dad going to work, my mom being a stay-at-home mom, taking care of the kids and stuff like that. She pretty much put a lot of her life on the side for that reason. And so for me, I just really admired it, because it's like, for example, first thing in the morning, you come down and she's always got breakfast going. She's got She's getting our little lunch bags ready to go. And at the time for like the lunch bags, it was always those little brown sacks. But she always drew like a cute little art on them. And I remember it got to the point where I was so excited, like what she was going to draw the next day.
I love
But
that.
it was like cute moments like that,
Yeah.
you know, that I was just like, okay, this is what family's like.
Yeah.
And then obviously with my dad, just being the hard worker, he pretty much started up his own construction business. It was the one that is right at the west of I-15 on the west side. I don't know if you come up that way. Okay. Well, there's a huge gravel pit there.
Okay.
It's been there for years. They had 7 different businesses that were all together into one big construction business. And he was one of those guys who, if he had an idea, he didn't care what was in front of him. He was already going at it and just writing ideas, doing pictures or whatever. And a lot of times his greatest ideas came from a napkin. So he was like very visionary kind of man. And which is funny because I see a lot of that in Jeff. He's very much like that. Like if he has ideas, like he just immediately wants to write everything down. Anyways, but just admired their roles and just how hard of work it was on both ends.
Yeah.
And then still coming home, doing our family dinners. And I think that one was huge to me. So, which is funny because now that I have kids, I look at those little examples and like there's a lot of times than not, we will sit together for like a hot minute. And then all of a sudden everybody's like dispersing, going elsewhere, you know? And so those kind of moments, I'm like, you know what, as the kids get older, it will get better.
Yeah.
But it's like I still try to bring them all together, especially after Jeff gets home. Like that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
we're the same way. We try and have dinner as a family every night. And we have, you know, lots of things going on. Kids are, Lily's in volleyball, Anna's in gymnastics. There might be timings that miss, but we try every evening. Even if, like you said, even if it's just 5 minutes to eat dinner, throw it down before we're out the door, like we all do try and come together.
Yeah.
And even if, you know, Andrea and I have to eat earlier or later because of the kids' schedule, we will still sit with the kids while they eat and then go do their thing, and then we'll eat later on, like whatever it is. But we always try and sit as a family and to have dinner as a family, because that's that time of the day where we all get to talk about our day. What did you do at school? How was your day at work? What do we got going on? Where do you need to be tomorrow? Like that's that quick little 5-10 minute powwow. We just check in. Is everybody good? Like what's any problems? And then we, you know, go from there. And, you know, we've got an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. The 11-year-old just wants to talk to her friends on FaceTime, be on the computer, listen to YouTube, all the music, all that sort of stuff. And our eldest wants to be with us, draw, you know, do other things, art projects or sports. And so there is a lot of time where like, do we even have kids? Like, why do we have a 4,000 square foot house? Where the hell are the kids? Like, you know? But then there's other times it's like, okay, kids, we need a break.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Can you get out of our bed?
There needs to be a good balance.
Can you get out of our bed now, please, and go back to your own?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we've actually started this thing because things have been so chaotic, especially through Christmas and holidays and timings and schools, whatever. We've made this commitment now that literally at 7:30, it's like, okay, everybody piles into our bed. And we will literally, the 4 of us will lay in our bed and we'll watch like a TV show, we'll watch a documentary, like the 4 of us as a family, like that's our family in the big bed, watch TV as a family. And then like 8:30, the kids are like, okay, we're going to bed now.
Oh,
like, good night.
I love that.
So they actually tuck us in and then take themselves to bed.
Okay, that's
It's
awesome.
the best.
I can't wait for
Such
that.
a hack. I'm telling you.
Wait for
It's
that.
great. Invite the kids into your bed to watch TV and then send them up and like, okay, kids, time to bed. Love you. Night, kiss. And then send them on the way and you'd have to come in.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
You'd have to leave
They
bed.
still want me to tuck them in every night, which is
So
fine.
do our kids. I'm like, really?
I'm-
I'm like, really? Do you want me to
11
tuck you
and
in?
13.
11 and 13. Really? You need me to tuck you in? Lord knows I'm going to come upstairs, kiss you on the cheek, say goodnight, and you're going to put on Friends anyway. So let's just skip the bullshit and go to bed.
Right?
You know, I'll text you, I love you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
No, they still do want to tuck us in. But there's also nights where they're like, hey, we'll tuck you guys in tonight. Don't worry. I'm like, oh, I ain't saying
Oh,
no.
sweet.
I'm like, this is great.
You're like, I don't have to leave my bed.
I'm like, great. I'll get into bed. I'll take a cup of tea. That'll be wonderful. Thank you. They bring a little cup of tea
Wouldn't that
in,
be
tuck
amazing?
Andrea and I in. Oh, yeah, it's great.
Love
It's
that.
great. So you mentioned Jeff. Your
name's Jeff.
Who's Jeff? Jeff who? Jeff, obviously your loving husband, great guy. You've got beautiful family. You've got beautiful children together. Tell us, how did you meet Jeff? How did all this come about?
Uh-huh.
Moving on. So how... I'm
No,
kidding, Jeff. You get a
no.
second here.
No, we actually were set up on a blind date.
Really?
So I was in a very toxic relationship before I met Jeff.
Okay.
And this guy and I, we've been dating for almost 9 months, but it was so toxic that was the time that I started getting angrier with my family.
Okay.
So I used to have a really amazing relationship with my dad. Like, he was one of my best friends, right? I could go to him about anything, and he would just talk to me with the open arms. Like, he wouldn't show like a lot of emotion and stuff like that. He was just one of those guys that I could just feel a lot of trust with, right? And so anyways, when this guy came along, it got to the point where my dad and I used to have fights on the phone. And it also got to the point where there was times I wouldn't even go up for Sunday dinners. And that used to be our biggest thing. Every Sunday, that's what we did. And I started making excuses, lies and stuff like that. And my dad was just like, this isn't Natalie. Like, what's this guy doing to you? Anyways, so as time went on, my dad passes away that Christmas. And we have a funeral a few days later. And my ex at the time, he was just like, will you please invite me up there? I just want to be for you. I don't want you to have to lean on your best friends or anything. Like, I want to be there for you. Right. And so I remember having a conversation with my mom about it. And she's like, don't you dare bring him up of all people, because that is the last person that your dad had any respect for.
Wow.
And he's like, and she pretty much just was in the point where it's like, it offends me that you'd even ask, because you know how I feel about it, how the rest of your family feels about it. Whereas in my, thoughts, I was just like trying to be supportive for everybody, but also have my ex be there for me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he ended up just coming for the luncheon. That's all my mom wanted, right? Which is fine. And then after luncheon, him and I got in a huge argument, and it was all about his emotions. He didn't care about what I was going through. It was all about his emotions. And then that was kind of the turning point for me. Like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Especially because there's so many times my dad came to me and he's just like, why are you dating this guy?
He could see that you needed.
He
could see you deserve better.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, in the way that I was starting to act out and everything, he's just like, something's going on. Like, this isn't right. Anyways, so we ended up separating for like going on a break, obviously. And then that's when I met Jeff. So I had been dating a few other guys during this break and stuff like that. And I just got to the point where I was like, I'm so sick of men. Like, guys, I'm just done. Right. And then sure enough, I get a message a few days later. Hey, is this Natalie Balls? By the way, that's my maiden name, Balls.
Balls?
Balls, Balls. I should throw that out there.
Let's stick with Slivchenko or whatever it was. Let's go with that one instead. All right, that's
Svetkova. Or Daniels, I guess.
Let's go with Svetkova before we go with balls.
I know there's so much you could do with that word. I know. You know what? Shut it. It's fine.
Okay, moving on. Anyways,
he's like, I would really no. I don't remember what he said, but it was more like, I would just like to take you on the date. I was asked, I don't remember what it was. It was something like that. Like, I can't tell you who set us up, but I would like to take you on a date. So anyways, during that time is when I started school for master esthetician.
Okay.
So because that was kind of like the turning point in my life as well with education. Before I was going to LDSBC, thinking I was going into legal executive. Turned out, hated it. Hated every part of it. It was just so boring, so dull. Like, literally, I was sitting in courtroom every day just jotting down notes. Like, it was awful.
Misery.
And it wasn't even fun courts. I was like, this is so lame.
This is not the OJ case I was expecting. This is not what I
wanted. Yes,
it's another
exactly.
DUI.
Yes. Anyways, so during that time, that's when I was also working for my dad's company.
Okay.
And then I remember my mom and I sitting down and having a serious conversation about my education. And that's when we finally made a deal of, because I always wanted to get into beauty stuff. I just didn't know if that's truly where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousin, she had actually been already in that school for 3 months. And she kept telling me how much fun it is, how much she loves it. And she's like, you'd be so good at this. Like, you're naturally just talented when it comes to stuff like this. She's like, I just think you should give it a shot. And then after having that conversation with my mom as well, I think that was the point where I was like, you know what, you're right. I do need to do something different with my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I also need to get out of this company as well, because I just couldn't be there, you know, since it was still like 2 weeks fresh.
Yeah.
Anyways, so my mom and I had a deal that if I was consistent for 9 months, that's about how long it took to go through school, and it was full time. Whereas if it was part time, it would extend by, you know, double the months. And so I went full time, and she said, if you do that, I will pay for your housing in Provo. So I was like, okay, fine. So I stuck with it. And then, 2 weeks later is when I met Jeff. And
Rest is history.
I know. It was.
You went from balls to Daniels.
Uh-huh.
There we go.
And then after that, that's, a few months later, we got more just him and I. And then it just kind of worked from there.
I love that.
And then we got married a year and a half later.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he was ready at 6 months, let's be honest.
Of course he was.
But I was just like, I need more time.
Like,
I need to make sure you're the guy.
I got to check this out first of all. You're a little
I
weird,
know,
you know what I mean?
which is funny because one of his rules is it's like, no, you got to season the girl. You got to at least date her for a year. Yeah, no, 6 months. It's just like,
Couldn't help himself. So what do you have any Russian traditions that you bring through to your family and to your kids? Because I know, like, with you leaving at 9, there's probably, you didn't have a lot of family traditions. Like, you know, there wasn't like the family Christmas traditions of Russia because you're kind of in the orphanage and you just do that way. And the traditions that you probably know as a family is what you've learned in the US with, you know, your parents that you have. Is there anything that you bring from Russia, any heritage or parts of you that you bring from Russia, which you feed through down to your children? Because that's, you know, technically their lineage too. They are, you know, a descendant of Russia. So is there anything you bring through or do you talk about?
Well, what's funny, just recently, my older daughter started asking me about Russia.
Wow.
And she was asking me what an orphan is. And that's where she was just like, so did you have a mom and dad? Like, she started kind of getting curious, even though she's 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, she had some curiosity, and I thought that is so cool. And so we had some moments at night when I'm tucking her in that we just talked a little bit about Russia, my life growing up, because one of the biggest thing is I don't have any pictures until I came here. So it's like, I don't even know what I look like as a baby.
Wow.
Like, there's nothing. It's just, it's gone. That part of my life is just, it's gone. So it's like the only thing that...
Well, the fact she's 8 too, which is the same year
that's what's crazy.
Transition
because
from there to here.
she'll be 9 in May. So I'm just like, you're literally the age that I was when I came here.
Yeah.
So it's wild to see it through my kids' eyes. Because I'm like, okay, I have ideas of what I could look like. I mean, let's be honest. My oldest daughter, she looks just like Jeff.
Okay.
There's like little bits of me that I can see in her, but it's more my younger two that I can see more of me in, especially my little Ella, 5-year-old.
So is that kind of what you assume or believe that you probably look like?
I kind of go off of those because I'm like, I could see a little bit of like Russian traits in them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it kind of gives me a little idea, but it's just things like that. It just sucks that I have literally nothing from the orphanage to bring here.
That is sad.
So
not even like a little box or, you know, these are the little worldly belongings.
No, like we couldn't take anything with us from Russia. Just those kind of people. It's fine.
Whatever.
Like, nope.
So you're starting to talk to your eldest now about, you know, Russia and you know, your past and your story. And obviously, you know, you've been married to Jeff for a while now and a long time, and he obviously knows a lot of it and all that sort of stuff. Do you personally, or do you as a family ever have an inkling to go to Russia? And
oh, he would love to. Like, I'm kind of on the fence.
Okay.
Like, for a while, I was just like, I never want to go there. I don't want to know anything about it. Like, I'm just done. But Jeff especially, he's like, I would love to go back when you are ready, because there's a lot of ancestry work that I can do here.
Mhm.
And they said the only way that usually works is if you at least have a death certificate on them, which I do on my mom.
Gotcha.
So before we moved up to Harriman area, one of the people in our ward, she was working in the ancestry area, and she so wanted to work on my heritage. She's like, you don't know how far we can actually get with just your mom's information. And there was a hesitation because I almost was like, maybe I don't want to know. Like, I was just one of those moments, you know?
Sometimes the unknown is better than
It's
the
better
known.
because I'm like, I'm happy. I don't look back on my past as like the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Mhm.
Because it's like, yeah, there was actually a lot of blessings in itself as well. But then also I get to come away with like great stories, and that people there were literally doing their best.
Yeah.
That's all they can do. But yeah, when she really wanted to work on that stuff, I was just like, I don't know if I'm there yet. Like, yes, I'd love to know my past, but what parts exactly?
Mhm.
I mean, yes, my mom being the biggest missing piece.
Do you feel there's parts of your past missing, or do you feel that your
Not really.
timeline just started when you came to America?
I feel like it was fulfilled in ways that needed to be done for me
Mhm.
in order to just move forward.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can't dwell on the past and look at all the bad things, because it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you're always going to have those good and bad days. You know, it's just a matter of what kind of course of action you want to take from it. And I think for me, that was the biggest thing, was being more like a goof, acting like a goof and stuff like that. Because in the Russia especially, it's like, why am I always just going to be sad?
Yeah.
And so low on everything? It's like, why not actually enjoy the life that I have? And that even though it is an orphanage life, it could be so much worse. And there's reasons I was put into it because of that, because my mom believed that there was a better future for me than what she was capable of giving me.
Well, yeah, because,
So
without making it sound worse than it is, with your
Sure.
mom being a prostitute trying to raise children,
yeah.
that is not a healthy place to raise.
No, so I'm
Children.
grateful that
So
she
there is a blessing that your mom
Absolutely.
had the foresight of like, okay, I can't do this.
right.
She probably could if she wanted to or had to, but it wouldn't have been pretty.
And it would have been, I don't know, in a sense, selfish.
Very selfish.
Because she's not doing it for the right reasons, but
Yeah.
more like, I don't want to be here alone. Like, you need to be here with me.
Yeah.
So
So it's a very selfless act,
absolutely.
what she did.
Yeah.
And if you really sit down and think of it, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to probably write down the list of reasons why.
No.
It's very simple to see why she did it. It just sometimes, I'm sure there's questions of like, it hurts that it was that way.
Yeah.
But
if you look at the bigger picture, like as to why, besides the fact that, well, I was put here.
yeah,
Okay, but why?
but why?
So I think that's the biggest takeaway. And so now that I've been doing a little bit more work on myself
Mm-hmm.
and like the motherly role and the love and everything, I genuinely do give grace to my mom for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is never easy to do, giving up a child like that.
No, not at all.
And she was probably in like the darkest place where she's like, I'm done. I can't do this to my kids. So, and it's just one of those things that we'll probably never know.
No, really not.
And honestly, at this point, like, I don't care to know.
Yeah.
I was put there. I came here for a reason.
Well, and
And-
that's a very true statement, Natalie. I think if you were to continue digging into your past, into your history,
What is that going to bring?
what's that going
You
to
know what I
open
mean?
up? And what if the story that now is in your heart that you tell about your mom is, it's a selfless act and she did it for me. And
Yeah.
that's, what if that isn't the story when you get there?
Well, that's
You know what I mean? And then
yeah.
your whole datum line, your whole ground zero of where this story sits for you, what it's all based off of,
Mhm.
is not the truth anymore. It's something different. And now you've got to reattach your entire life frame to something that isn't true anymore.
Yeah, it's like, I don't need to do
Just
that.
why would you do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you're competent and you're comfortable of where history is and you've put those sleeping dogs to lay, then why rile them up again? Just let it be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can believe in your heart of hearts that your mother loved you because she
Mhm.
gave you up for a better life.
Mhm.
And that's all you got to be thankful for.
Yeah.
That her doing that gave you the gift of being in the US, loving family, knowing what a family looks like and what love feels like, meeting a beautiful husband and having fantastic children of your own. Like, she gave you the gift of what you have today.
Absolutely.
And so we almost, in essence, have to remember that every day and keep working towards that, because she made a sacrifice. So when we think we're less than or want to do less than, we've got to remember that other people's gave up more than for us.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. So it's like I don't have any regrets from the past. Like, it led me to where I needed to be now. And
I still
I have
think
a
you should.
great life.
I still think you should rock the Russian last name, though. I'm telling you.
Nobody can say it.
Who gives it? It's pretty darn cool. You could double barrel. You could be like Natalie Daniels Netska, whatever it is. What is it?
Natalia Balls Daniels Tsvetkova.
Damn,
Could you
that's a real
imagine?
Russian. That's a real Russian.
Oh, that's
What
like
would your initials
European.
be? What is it? Natalie B.
No. It would be,
BDS?
no.
Balls Daniels Slechnutska.
Would you?
Natalie BDS.
I don't know how you would say it, because I don't know if you go from Natalia Alexandra, Tsvetkova, Daniels.
But you'd have to go
Kind of like that.
S.
Although I would take away
SBD.
my last name.
No, you'd SBD. Natalie SBD. SB has to go first, Balls, and then Daniels. Yeah. SBD.
It's too complicated.
It's a
Matt.
lot. It's a
not
lot.
gonna
Try
work.
putting that on a freaking envelope. Like, can I speak to Natalie Alexandra Svetlinskaya Balls Daniels, please?
Svetlinskaya?
And you're like, you mean just Natalie Daniels? Like, yeah, that's what I mean.
Right?
God, it's a lot.
Well,
Oh, dear.
and I think that's why Jeff wanted to keep our girls' names very simple.
Simple. Let's do
He's like, they do not need middle names. Like, let's just get away from that Utah crowd.
That's too
So,
funny.
I
That's
was
too
like, all
funny.
right.
So Russia may be on the books. Jeff wants to go.
I mean, we'd like to go,
Just
but
to
it's
visit.
just, there's
Go see
never
the-
a good time.
Oh,
Are you
seriously.
kidding?
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
no.
We're not going to get into that, but
No.
do you get asked a lot of questions about the whole Russia's antics, the Ukraine and Russia, especially being Russia?
Well, I mean, they joke about
or
some
do most
stuff.
people just look at you now and don't even think about you being Russian? They're like,
They think that I'm the New Yorker.
oh, really?
Because some people with the accent, they're like, I swear you're from New York or New Jersey or...
Okay. Because, I can hear a little bit of Russian accent in you, but I also, I'm European, so I
Right,
pick up
right.
on that.
Yeah.
So I could probably hear that, but I don't, you're not nyet everywhere. You're not
No.
nyet.
I have bit... Hey, I
neat.
like that.
Nyet. Hey, I've watched a lot of Russian commie movies back in the day. Nyet. I've seen Hunt for October at least 1,000 times.
I mean, the Russian language is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
It's pretty dope.
It is pretty cool. You know, Dr. Nicholas Howland is fluent Russian.
No, he's not.
He served his mission in Russia.
Shut up.
Straight up.
What part?
Moscow, I believe. Or Moscow or St. Petersburg, one of the two.
Have we talked about this before?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to talk to him.
He's fluent. He did 2 years in Russia.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome.
Yeah. There you
So
go.
he still probably knows a lot too of
Oh,
the
yeah.
language.
Do you still know a lot of language?
No, just the bad words. It's fine.
That's all you need.
I know.
Just swear at Jeff in Russian. Yeah, nyet, nyet. He's
Oh
like,
my gosh, that was the funniest thing. So the first year that we were here, my mom was bringing neighbors over because she wanted everybody to meet us, right? And every time somebody came over, my mom's like, "Hey, girls, sing that song, sing that song." And she thought it was such a pretty song. She had no idea it was the worst song ever. Because then one of the people that happened to come by spoke Russian. And then he had a little chit chat with my mom after because he's like, I think you should know what they're actually saying. She had no idea. And even to this day, she still talks about it because she was so excited that we could sing and the song just sounded so pretty.
And is it it's like an absolute orphanage, just horror song.
Oh my gosh.
Bet it's just full of bad words.
Oh, I don't even know what the song was to this
disgust.
day, but that's pretty funny. I was like, all right, we're just going to continue on with this.
The lyrics of it are in Russian on the front of the family Christmas card. It's like, yeah, Merry Christmas. Nyet, 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 nyet. And he basically just told everyone to go fuck themselves. It's
Pretty
like,
much.
That's so good.
I know, isn't that great?
That's so good. Well, Natalie, I have had an absolute amazing hour with you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. I really do appreciate you coming in. I know that it's a lot in your past, and it's obviously there's things that you have grown from this, and you've seen the gift in it, which I think is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Because you can either be a victim of this or you can be a hero of it, and
Sure.
you chose to be a hero instead of a victim. I think it's very empowering, the things that you've talked about, and just I think it's really, really special that your 8-year-old is asking questions
Mm-hmm.
and just that tie of her asking questions about who you were as an 8-year-old.
Right.
Just so she can, you know, and I think most kids want to do this. When they get to an age, they want to know what you were like at that age because they want to compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Am I like my mom? Am I like my dad? And just to the fact that she's asking those questions at the age of when you made the biggest transition of your life too
Mm-hmm.
is just really beautiful. I think that's really, really cool.
Thank you.
And I think that could be a really beautiful story that the pair of you share and grow together, you know. And,
absolutely.
And I think that's something beautiful that the two of you can really bond through, you know. So
yeah, absolutely.
but no, I love you. I love Jeff. I can't wait to hang out with more with you guys because I think you're
Yes.
fantastic. We had such a blast
Thank
on the
you.
cruise. And I'm just very, very honored and privileged that you came in today.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
This was great.
Nyet.
Niet. No?
What is Russian? What is goodbye in Russian?
До свидания.
Das Vidanya.
Do you ever see the movie Anastasia?
Anastasia.
Anastasia. It's a Russian film. It's about the princess who gets separated from her family because of Rasputin.
I have not seen this.
Anyways, they get separated and they're royalty. So this evil Rasputin comes in, pretty much splits up the family, and then they lose Anastasia, their youngest. And she ends up getting found by someone, put into an orphanage. And then as she got older, she was at the age where she was no longer to be at an orphanage. Like she had to pretty much go out on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And then on her journey is when she finds out who she truly is. And she was
You
the princess.
Anastasia.
That's who I named my daughter after, Anya. Because in the orphanage, they called her Anya.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was like, I would love to name her Anastasia, but I'm like, that's just too Disney. Like, no. I was like, Anya. I like Anya, though, because that's what she was called in the orphanage. Anya.
That is beautiful.
And she didn't know she was Anastasia because she always was just known as Anya.
Has she seen the movie with you?
I tried once, but she just was too bored.
Now's the
So
time.
I'm going to give her another
Now's
chance.
the time.
I know. There is some dark scenes in it, though, with Rasputin.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, okay, as a child, that kind of freaked me out. So I'm like,
She'll handle it.
she's almost 9,
She'll
though.
handle it.
But it's one of my favorite.
We have therapy for that.
We have much therapy
Watch
here.
it. Put the movie on. We have therapy for that.
But-
so she is you.
Yeah. So it's like I kind of put her in the shoes. I'm like, I mean, obviously it's very different, but
Yeah,
she gets
But
to
that's
find out who
special.
she is. She gets to find her grandmother,
that's special.
like all that stuff, and I'm like, that's so cool. So it's one of those movies that I grew up loving. Like I still to this day just love that movie.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
We will find it. Andrew
on-
and I will find it. We'll watch
It's
it
on
with the
Disney
girls.
Plus.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the girls have probably already seen it. I'm probably way behind.
And it's got good music.
I'm probably the only one that hasn't seen it, to be honest. So, so I will check it out.
'Kay.
Well, thank you.
Of course.
Goodbye again in English because I can't remember what it was in
Das
Russian.
Vidanya.
Das Vidanya. Das Vidanya. I've loved every second. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And Das Vidanya.
Thank you. Good job, Matt. That was so
Fluent.
good.
Thank you for listening to the Bear Den podcast. Please click subscribe and get the updates for our new episodes. And if you feel the need to reach out, you can reach me on Instagram @TheBritBear.